Hello, and welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. I'm your host, Kamaria Richmond, and we have a wonderful show for you today. I'm so excited. We are talking to Mr. Larry LaRose, and Larry is an award-winning actor, performance coach, and speaker. And we're doing something new today, which I'm excited about. So, Larry, welcome back to the award-winning Ed Brown Show.
Thank you.
And so, what's been going on?
Well, so what's been going on? Something, I'm going to say something exciting, kind of scary at the same time. I remember the last time that I was here, I was talking about some of the programs that I was developing for my students,
Right.
Especially in the theater world, in the acting world. One of the things that I have developed and that I wrote was an introduction to acting for business professionals, because business professionals are basically my target market. They're the people that I reach out to. Since then, I've actually done a couple of those workshops. We've actually put them on video, and we have started to produce them for an online course. Now, in the middle of doing this, I've discovered that I had a small heart problem.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise to me, too. I had a malfunctioning valve in my heart, which I've had all my life.
Okay.
I mean, it's not it wasn't a surprise or anything. I have what's known as a mitral valve prolapse problem. And what it means is that one of the valves in my heart did not close properly, but I've had it ever since I was born. It's basically hereditary.
Okay.
So I basically inherited it from my grandmother, who had it many years ago. Unfortunately, she succumbed to it, but that was way back in 1971.
Okay.
And things have gotten a lot better since then. Anyway, my cardiologist and I have been monitoring it for like the past 15 years. I go in every year and I have an echocardiogram to just keep an eye on it, make sure nothing's going on. Well, this year I thought I was going to do my routine echocardiogram. I went in. My cardiologist looked at me after she got the results and said, I'm afraid that the prolapse is starting to move. In other words, it was starting to get bigger. Bigger is bad.
Right.
Because basically that valve opens up and it allows blood to escape to the lower valve in the heart, and that starts to enlarge the heart. When the heart gets too enlarged, it never goes back to normal after they make the repair. So she suggested that I had the repair right away. And unfortunately, within 3 weeks, I was in Washington MedStar Hospital having a valve repair done to my heart.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was quick, too.
And you look great.
Well, thanks.
For someone that
Thanks.
says, "Oh, I just had open heart surgery," you
Yeah.
look amazing.
Well, I'm kind of lucky that way. I seem to be in really good health.
Yeah.
And pretty strong for especially the size that I am. At least that's what my surgeon said. And I was able to recover relatively quickly. Actually, very quickly.
Very quickly.
That's what he said.
Well,
So-
I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, it
and
was.
right in time for the holidays. So
Just
you
in
can
time
still
for the
do
holidays.
Whatever you need and want to do, healthy and happy and all that good stuff.
Well, yeah, healthy. It's kind of it was kind of a strange experience because first of all, it's the first time I've ever been in a hospital in my life.
Wow.
So that was a new experience. Second thing was that it was open heart surgery. I was hoping they could do pretty non-invasive, but not in this particular case.
It was about 6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours in surgery. It was, the interesting thing was how I got there, because a cardiologist said, I'm going to send you for this TEE scan, TEE Doppler scan, which is basically how they tell the weather
Okay.
with the Doppler radar. So it's the same kind of thing. It's based on the same technology. So they had to put a hose down my throat with a camera on the end, with a receiver on my chest, and they took a picture actually of my heart from the inside to the receiver on the outside. And pretty
Wow.
much said, yeah, it's getting bigger. We really do suggest you have this surgery. And we suggest you have it very quickly, because we don't want it to get bigger and we don't want it to not go back to its normal size after we repair it.
Wow. God bless you.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
You had 3 choices. He said you can have a repair, or if we get in there and it's not repairable, you can have a artificial valve or you can have a tissue valve. And all of those things were like, artificial valve means you have to be on drugs every day for the rest of your life if you have the artificial valve. If you have the tissue valve, you don't have to do that, but you have to come back in 15 years to have it done again. So I was like, I'll take option number 1, repair, because if it's repaired, you never have to do any of that. And I was like, I'll take option 1, please.
Wow.
So
well, you're very young,
yeah,
very active, and so you have all this, so many wonderful things going on.
Well, we had a lot going on when I was going in, because my producer and myself were working on, first of all, this online course that we were getting up, but there was a lot of other ideas. And the really interesting thing is when you're in the hospital and you're thinking about how serious the procedure you're having is, or you're thinking about, gee, this is the type of surgery where if something goes wrong, you don't get off the table.
Right.
You know, and things of that nature. So you're thinking about that before. But then, when you come out, in my case, when I came out, I started and realized that I was going to recover. I began to think about all the things that I haven't done yet,
Right.
all the things that I want to do,
Right.
all of the work that I want to get done. Not that I never consider what I do here work. To me, it's just a joy to teach. It's a joy to coach. It's a joy to perform for me
Right.
on stage. And being able to, I guess, teach my students that talent or give to them the things that I've benefited from in my stage experience and and I would say in my business experience too, because I've always taken what I've had on stage, the talents that I've developed on stage, and brought them into the workplace,
Right.
brought them into business, because I feel it gives me an edge
Right.
over everybody else. So I began to think about all the things I wanted to do, and knowing that this first workshop is based on my number 1 workshop, which is, it's basics for business professionals. It's acting basics for business professionals is what the workshop is about. So I started thinking about, well, this workshop, and I wanted to reach out to more people, a bigger audience, so to speak. So I decided, not only did I decide, but with my producer, we decided we would put it on video, and we put it out there as an online course.
Okay.
And so we're in the middle of making that happen when all this with the heart thing started. So I thought, wow, there's a whole bunch of things that I would really like to get done before anything happens to me.
Right.
There's yeah.
Exactly.
You don't think about something happening to you until something happens to you.
Something happens to you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought, there's a lot of things I want to get done. So talking with my producer and with myself and really having I guess an internal conversation while I was in the hospital, because I was in there for 5 days. And I'm not a person who does that well. I didn't want to be there for 5 days.
Right.
I was like, 2 days would be good. I want to be home in 2 days, which the surgeon advised me was impossible.
Right.
But that doesn't discourage me. But anyway, so I had time to think. And I thought about the things that I wanted to do, and I came out with this list of these great things that I wanted to do. First thing is, of course, the introduction to acting for business professionals. That's the first thing. Both the live workshop, which I love to do, because it introduces people to all of the disciplines of acting, so to speak. Right. And you can actually start to master some of those things. I tell people, I'll teach you how to do something in 10 minutes.
Right.
You'll have a new skill in 10 minutes that you can practice.
Okay.
Okay. So from there, I said, okay, so we can put that online, but where do we go from there? What do I do with, and I began thinking about when I'm working with my one-on-one students, and where do I lead them? What things do they need that they've found to be beneficial? And so we were coming up with these different programs. One of them was after the introduction to acting for professionals, being the live workshop and the online workshop, but then, like one of my students has trouble on camera, has trouble relating on camera, has trouble, he's how do I say, he's very stiff, very, his personality doesn't come across. So I started to work with him as far as acting on camera. the tricks that we use as actors when we're like being filmed, when some of my people, some of my friends are actually working in semi-professional work here in the DC area.
Okay.
So we're doing a lot of film, a lot of camera work. So we came up with this becoming a star that you are on audio and video.
I like that.
So that's something that we're working on. The next thing was that another thing that one of my students was having trouble with was his presence. He's, again, very stiff, very cold on camera, very cold online, very cold on film. Okay. So we started to work with him as far as developing an online presence. In other words, a warm presence. Developing a more encompassing personality, more warmth, more empathy in the way he delivers and the way he speaks on camera. Okay. So that's another thing that we decided that would be good. That would be something that people be interested in, was improving your online presence.
Right.
Not only just in that, but in, you know, how do you reach out? How do you make a video that's got empathy? How do you make a video that's warm, you know, that makes people happy? Or you can be like me, you know, the extrovert. You know, you might be an introvert. How do you become an extrovert? Not that I want to change anybody's personality, but when you're on camera, you want to do something different. You don't want to necessarily be yourself.
Right.
You want to be a better part of yourself.
Right.
You know, stronger part. Okay, so that's another one we decided that we're going to work on in the future. And then using social media effectively and profitably. Everybody uses, a lot of people use social media.
We all use social media.
Everybody uses social media. About 90% of everybody that uses social media uses it wrong.
I was going to say that you would say something like that.
Yeah, almost everybody.
As a professional in teaching people how to do it.
Well, I can include myself. Sometimes I use it wrong too.
Okay.
I mean, I must admit, I do try to win arguments with people on social media. That's never going to happen. All right, that should be relegated to your personal life, not your professional life.
Right.
If you're going to do something professional on social media, you should make it always professional. You know, always about your programs, always about what you're doing, always about what you're doing for your students, how they're benefiting from what you're doing. Everything on social media, to do it properly, should be done that way. Or just giving a lesson.
Right.
You know, giving a lesson, giving some content, giving some experience, giving something that people can use today.
Right.
You know, something that benefits them today.
Right.
So that's the right way to use social media.
I tell you, that's a whole different animal with social media.
Well,
and professionalism. But I mean, that is what you teach. And how do people find you on social media?
Oh, I'm there. You just just Google me. I'll come up. If you Google Larry LaRose, I come up at the top.
Okay.
All right. You just Google Larry LaRose. You'll see me on LinkedIn. You'll see me on Facebook. Haven't done a whole lot with Instagram yet, but that's coming very soon.
Yeah.
I'll probably start Twittering, but I don't know why. I know of at least, you know, a couple people out there not using Twitter properly.
But, well, Instagram, though, is really, I mean, you get a lot of information on Instagram. And
yeah, a lot of
have
information.
Really interesting pages. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Instagram is, I think if you do your homework on social media, you realize that those three platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, are kind of like the most active platforms.
So.
I mean, Twitter is too for the moment. But those three, LinkedIn is professionals.
Right.
Facebook has a tendency to be older individuals, people, you know, middle-aged and up.
Right.
And Instagram is the young people.
Yes.
So.
And they have everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you want to reach all three of those markets, those are probably the platforms you should be active on. And depending on where your target market is, you might want to concentrate on one more than others. What I found is I have a student who's I should say, when she came to me, she was a struggling photographer. She's no longer struggling. But when she came to me, she was. And the reason why she was struggling was because she couldn't find her market. But she also wasn't monitoring where her market was coming from.
Okay.
So people get on social media and they don't think about the response they're getting, or they don't monitor the response they're getting. So when I ask some of my students, where do you get the most response? They can't answer the question. So here's my piece of free advice today. Monitor where your results are coming from.
Right.
You know, where are they coming? What we found out with her after she monitored for about a little less than a month was that all of her leads were coming off Facebook. And I said, well, how much time do you spend on Facebook? And she said she didn't spend hardly any of her time. I said, but 80% of your customers are coming from Facebook.
Right.
So you should start spending more time on Facebook, put more things up on Facebook, do a fan page, do whatever it is. She started concentrating on that, immediately took off. As a matter of fact, quit her job. She was working as a waitress hostess in Philadelphia, quit her job, went to work for a photography business, ended up moving to Denver, which is where she is right now, and has a thriving photography business.
Oh, good for her.
And that all happened within 6 months. So,
Good for her.
yeah, using social media right. Next thing we said, one of the big things with my students is storytelling. And there's a lot of speakers, there's a lot of other professionals out there today that are talking about storytelling. Okay. You know, teaching people how to tell a story. I do something similar, but what I found with my students, they don't want just to tell stories. They want to actually build their stories.
That to me is more, it's a little bit more mind-blowing.
It's an entirely different way of looking at things.
Right, right.
Is that you build your story. A lot of them come to me with stories, but they haven't really built them.
Okay.
They just have a story. They don't know how to tell it so that you can bring the audience into the story, have the audience build empathy for your story, or having the audience, or actually pricking the imagination of the audience so that they see what you see. Because none of us can see that experience the way the person telling the story. Right. But a person can tell a story so that you can see the experience in your own imagination.
Absolutely.
And once you trigger the imagination, people remember what you tell them, or people will remember your story. And that's when you can use your story to move your business. You can use your story to build empathy. You can use your story to control your kids, for that matter. Okay, all these things can happen if you build a story. So when my students come to me, we build the story. We start with writing the story. We edit the story. We perform the story. We edit it for performance. We edit it for effect. Then we perform it again. So we actually build the story so that it has the proper effect in their presentation or their speech or their sales pitch, whatever it is they want to build.
What makes it memorable? Anything we do, if we're telling a story, or we're just having a nice conversation or a chat, or you're actually on screen, what makes everything memorable?
I think what makes, right, my opinion is putting people in the story.
Okay.
You can't just, people tell stories and they do it with a very, how do I say it, cold kind of way. They don't use the metaphors, they don't use the adjectives, they don't use the adverbs that put you in there. I think one of the great things about performing theater and being an actor, I don't think anybody tells a story better than an actor. Right. So, because an actor, we have to live other people's experiences, so we have to put you there.
Interesting.
Now, when you go to a movie,
that way, yeah.
When you go to a movie or you go to see a stage play, and you listen to an actor do a monologue or even a dialogue, usually it's written in a way where it puts you in the situation or draws you into the situation. As a speaker, as a presenter, as a salesperson, as a professional, you want to put people in the story. Once you put them in the story and they see it in their imagination, again, you can never see it through the person who lived it, but you can have a similar experience in your imagination depending on how descriptive the person telling the story is.
Right.
So if you put somebody in the story to live in the situation or live in the moment, they will remember you. That to me is how you become memorable.
That's the key.
You put people in the story.
In the story.
Make them part of it, make them feel the empathy, make them feel the situation, make them feel the emotion. especially if you make the emotion more real. If you can make that emotional contact with your audience, they'll never forget you.
And that's the thing. You have
That's
to
the
make
thing.
that connection.
Yeah.
That connection.
And
that
I think it's the
contact.
way you put the words together, it's the way you mold your sentences. All that goes into story building. It's not just storytelling, it's building the story, living the story when you're telling it, having your audience live the story with you.
That's the
Makes
key.
it entirely different.
That's the
Makes it an
key.
entirely different experience.
Wow.
All right, and then after we teach you how to do that, now you can start setting goals. You use your story to sell, use your story to influence, use your story to have an impact on people. All that, once you have a good story, a really well done story, well put together, well performed, all the elements in place, then you can start moving them into, well, like for sales, you can start selling better.
Right.
You can start empathizing with people better. You can bring people, you can start drawing the right people to you because you're telling them a story that resonates with them and they want to be around you. It's kind of like the opposite of the hard sell.
Right.
It's kind of a soft sell. It's kind of a soft skills sell because you're actually bringing people in empathetically.
Right.
So they want to be around you.
They want to be
They
around
want
you.
to be
right.
around you. They want to be there. So that
They have no clue what's going on. They just know that they're drawn to
they
you.
just know that they're drawn. All right. Once you do that, now you can start working on your goals. And that's another thing my people always want. How do we set goals? Setting goals has gotten to be kind of, I'm going to say, an overly complicated thing these days.
Okay.
I actually have a friend who wrote a book, the opposite of setting goals. He's telling people don't set goals. He's a contrarian. So he's telling people that goal setting is, and there are a couple different schools of thoughts about that right now. Some people say, yeah, goal setting is good. Some people say goal setting is bad. So what we do in our workshop is we kind of settle that. We kind of put people in what works for you. Does goal setting work for you? Does goal setting not work for you? And if goal setting doesn't work for you, we have a different alternative for you.
And we've always been told, though, that we should set
Always.
goals.
But
Write it down.
may not be what works for you.
Right.
I found everybody's an individual. Goal setting works for a percentage of people, but the non-goal setting works for the other percentage of people. Some people don't like the rigidness of being put in a goal.
Okay.
Okay, so they don't respond that way. They don't work that way. They work more in the broader sense. They want more freedom. But then there are other people that they got to have that goal. They got to have that discipline. They work well within
Right.
that. So really, it's deciding which person are you, or which person are you dealing with. If you're the leader, if you're the leader, you got to decide which thing works for your people.
Right.
And that's what makes a great leader, finding what works for them, not what works for you,
Absolutely.
what works for them that will benefit you. But that's the difference between maybe you want to be a rigid goal setter, maybe you want to be a loose goal setter. Maybe you don't want to have goals at all. You just have milestones or pinnacles that you want to reach.
Interesting.
And that builds what you ultimately want.
Okay.
Depends on what works for you. Okay? And then a big thing, creating and protecting your intellectual property workshop. Big thing today about protecting intellectual property. There's so many different ways to publish, different ways to get your material out there. But as many ways as there are to get it out there, there's that many ways for people to steal it from you.
Right.
So we're going to teach a workshop where we're going to tell you how you, when you create an item or you create a piece of intellectual property, how you can protect it.
Okay.
How you can put it, out there so that people can't steal it from you. Another great thing, in your business, you want to be able to do that because you want to build on that intellectual property. It brings income.
Right. Right.
And you know what, people? I've actually seen my friends' stuff on TV stolen from them.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I've actually seen it. So it does happen. And then we have a business development and funding workshop. I have brought in some other professionals because this is not my area of expertise.
Okay.
But one of the things is once you have a business and all the things that I've just explained to you are going to help you build a business. Once you have a business, now you got to find a place to develop it and to fund it. And sometimes you can be self-funding, depends if you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can self-fund. But you really need to know where to look for that funding out there and people that will invest in your idea. There are a lot of people that will, and there's a lot of resources out there that are available to people to have a good business idea and want to develop it. And there are people out there that will help you. And what we do is we teach you how to find those resources out there. Again, not my area of expertise. I'm more the artist, so to speak, but I do have a business background too. So I've been the president of a nonprofit. I've been a regional manager in a for-profit corporation. I've had 100 employees. I've had 10 managers working under me. I've analyzed P&L statements, all of that stuff, but not the thing that juices me creatively. Right. I'm more the person that likes to develop and create and help other people develop and create. And I like to leave some of this other stuff to other people that are, more suited to that.
Right.
Anyway, so after I thought about all this in the hospital, and actually I talked to my producer while I was in the hospital, wow. And a few other people, well, I get bored easily. So, and there's nothing more boring.
I don't believe it.
There's nothing. I'm probably the one person in the world who doesn't find me entertaining. No, I'm just kidding.
We definitely know that's not true.
There you go.
You're so entertaining.
All right, but then, thinking about all these programs that I wanted to create, and realizing that my recovery was going very well, was going exceedingly well, and bringing up all these ideas while I was thinking about them, and when I came out, realized that we can start working on these things right away, which is what we're doing right now.
Wow, okay.
Because you don't know how much time you have.
You don't know how much time you have. We have just a few more minutes, and I know we're going to do a second segment.
We are.
Let everyone know exactly where you are on social media.
Oh, real easy. You can look for Larry LaRose, that's LA_ROSE or LAROSE. You'll find me, LaRyLaRose.com. You also can find me on Facebook, I'm Larry LaRose. On LinkedIn, I'm still Larry LaRose. You can email me. It's really easy. It's Larry@LaRyLaRose.com. You can link up with me on Facebook, link up with me on LinkedIn. Call my office. It's 301-809-6437. I live right here in Maryland, so I'm available. I travel. I'm also available on Skype. So we can, if you want to become one of my one-on-one students, we can Skype, we can phone, we can do all those things.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You can do it on Skype. Well, good. I'm looking forward to our second segment.
It should be
so
interesting.
Stay tuned, and we will see you shortly.